I always knew my family was complicated, but I didn't know they were dangerous until my 29th birthday. We were at a nice cafe in downtown Portland. My son, Eli, was happy, eating his cake, but the air at the adults' table felt heavy. I saw my mother, Caroline, lean toward my brother, Caleb. She covered her mouth with her linen napkin, thinking I was distracted, but I heard every word. "While everyone's here," she whispered, "tell your son to go change the locks at her apartment." My stomach dropped. I didn't say a word. I just watched Caleb quietly leave the table. I sat there, trying to smile for my son, wondering why my own mother wanted to lock me out of my home. An hour later, Caleb came back. He looked sick. His face was pale as marble. He didn't sit down, he just leaned toward Mother. "Mom," he whispered, his voice shaking, "there's police tape around her door." Before she could answer, my phone buzzed against the table. I picked it up. "Miss Hale, this is Officer Jensen, Portland PD. Please contact us about your apartment." The party collapsed into silence. I looked at my mother, and I realized the woman across from me wasn't just controlling. She was hiding something terrible. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me, where in the world are you watching from? The silence at the birthday table was heavy. It felt like a physical weight pressing down on my chest. My phone was still in my hand, the screen dark after the call from Officer Jensen. My mother, Caroline, was the first to move. She didn't look worried about me or my safety. She looked annoyed. She smoothed the napkin on her lap, her rings clicking against the table. "Well," she said, her voice tight, "that sounds dramatic. I'm sure it's a mistake." I looked at her, really looked at her. For years, I had trained myself not to see the cruelty in her eyes. I told myself she was just strict or particular or stressed. But tonight, the veil was lifted. I saw the calculation. She had sent my brother to lock me out of my own home, and now that the police were involved, she was only worried about how it looked to the other diners. "It's not a mistake," I said. My voice was calm, which surprised me. Inside, I was shaking. "The police are at my apartment. Caleb said there is tape on the door." I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. I reached for my son, Eli. He was 5 years old, and he was looking between me and his grandmother with wide, confused eyes. He sensed the tension. Children always know when something is wrong. "We are leaving," I said. "Sienna, sit down," my father, Richard, said. It was the first time he had spoken in 20 minutes. His voice was low, a rumble meant to end an argument before it started. "Don't make a scene on your birthday." "A scene?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Mom just tried to evict me while I was eating cake, and now my house is a crime scene. I think we're past making a scene, Dad." I picked up Eli. He wrapped his legs around my waist and buried his face in my neck. He felt heavy, grounded. He was the only thing in my life that felt real. "Go then," my mother snapped. She didn't look at me, she looked at her wine glass. "But don't expect us to come help you clean up whatever mess you've made." I didn't answer. I just walked away. The drive to my apartment was a blur. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Eli fell asleep in the back seat, lulled by the motion of the car. I turned the radio off. I needed silence to think. As I drove, the events of the night replayed in my head, but honestly, I shouldn't have been surprised. This was the Hale family equation. It was simple math, really. My mother was the architect. She designed our lives. She decided who we were, what we wore, and what we believed. My father was the builder. He executed her plans without question. He was a big man, strong, but in front of her, he was small. He traded his spine for a quiet life years ago. Then there was Caleb, my older brother, the golden child. In my mother's eyes, the sun rose and set on Caleb's shoulders. He could do no wrong. When he crashed his car in high school, it was the road's fault. When he failed out of his first college, it was the professor's fault. He was always rescued. He was never blamed. And then there was me. Sienna, I was the fixer. I was the one who remembered birthdays. I was the one who paid the bills when my parents were too busy traveling. When I got pregnant with Eli and his father left, my mother didn't offer support. She offered judgment. She told me I had ruined the family image. Yet, I was the one who took care of them when they got sick. I was the one who showed up. I grew up thinking that if I just worked hard enough, if I was just good enough, they would love me the way they loved Caleb. I thought love was something you earned, like a paycheck. Tonight at that dinner, I realized I was wrong. You can't earn what isn't there. I turned onto my street and saw the lights. Red and blue flashed against the wet pavement. It was raining lightly, a typical Portland drizzle. 2 police cruisers were parked at weird angles in front of my building. A few neighbors were standing on their porches, arms crossed, watching. Shame washed over me. I hated being the center of attention. I hated that my neighbors were seeing this. I wanted to hide, but I couldn't. I had Eli. I parked the car and took a deep breath. Okay, Sienna, I whispered to myself. Handle it. I woke Eli gently. Baby, we're home. I need you to hold my hand and be very quiet, okay? He nodded, rubbing his eyes. We walked toward the building. The air smelled like rain and exhaust fumes. A tall officer stepped in front of me. He looked young, maybe in his early 30s, with a serious face and kind eyes. His badge read Jensen. Miss Hale, he asked. Yes, I said. Is everything okay? Is anyone inside? The apartment is clear, Officer Jensen said. His voice was steady. It helped calm my nerves a little. We did a sweep. Whoever was there is gone. He led me toward the front door of the building. My apartment was on the first floor. The main door to the unit was a mess. The wood around the lock was splintered. It looked violent. We found it like this, Jensen said. A neighbor called it in. Said they heard a loud crash about an hour ago. I stared at the broken wood. An hour ago. That was exactly when we were ordering appetizers. That was exactly when my mother whispered to Caleb. Officer Jensen took out a notebook. Miss Hale, I have to ask, is there anyone who has a key? Anyone who might have a reason to get in? I felt my face get hot. This was the humiliating part. My brother, I said quietly. Jensen looked up from his notebook. Your brother, Caleb Hale, I said. He was coming here tonight. My mother told him to, Jensen frowned. To break in? No, I said, to change the locks. I saw the confusion on the officer's face, so I explained. I was at dinner with them. My mother wanted to kick me out, I guess. Or lock me out. She sent my brother to call a locksmith and get it done while I was distracted at the party. He came here to do that. Jensen looked at the door, then back at me. Miss Hale, this wasn't a locksmith, and this wasn't someone with a key trying to change a cylinder. Someone kicked this door in. They used force. My heart skipped a beat. Wait, I said. So it wasn't Caleb. We spoke to a witness who saw a man running out the back alley, Jensen said. Description doesn't match your brother. Unless your brother is 6'2", heavy build, wearing a dark hoodie and work boots. Caleb is 5'9" and skinny, I whispered. And he was wearing a suit. Jensen nodded. Then we have two different events happening at the same time. Your family tried to lock you out, but someone else beat them to it. I felt dizzy. The world felt like it was tilting. My family trying to betray me was painful, but it was familiar. This, a violent break-in, was something else. It was terrifying. Did they take anything? I asked. That's the strange part, Jensen said. We did a quick look. The TV is there. Laptop is on the coffee table. Jewelry box on the dresser looks untouched. It doesn't look like a robbery. Then why? I asked. That's what we need to find out, he said. I need you to come inside and take a look. Tell us if anything is missing that we wouldn't notice. Specific papers, personal items. He looked down at Eli. Do you have someone who can watch your son? Ideally, he shouldn't go in there right now. I looked around. I had no one. My family was the enemy. My friends were all busy or lived too far away to get here in 5 minutes. No, I said, it's just us. Jensen nodded. Okay, stay close to me, don't touch anything. He lifted the yellow tape. I stepped under it, holding Eli's hands so tight he squirmed. I walked into my home, but it didn't feel like my home anymore. It felt violated. The air was cold because the door had been open. It smelled like wet pavement and something metallic. I stepped into the living room, and that's when I saw it. Officer Jensen was right. The TV was there. My purse was on the hook, but the room felt wrong. It took me a second to realize what it was. The photos. Every single picture frame in the living room was face down. The photo of Eli's first birthday on the mantel face down. The picture of me and Olivia at graduation face down. The family portrait I kept out of guilt face down. It wasn't a mess. It was deliberate. Someone had taken the time to walk around the room and turn every single image of us over, hiding our faces from the world. A chill went down my spine that had nothing to do with the cold air. Why would they do that? I whispered. Jensen was watching me carefully. It's an intimidation tactic. Whoever did this wanted you to know they were here. They wanted you to feel watched. He pointed to the small dining table near the kitchen. And Miss Hale, there is something else. I walked over. In the center of the table, sitting perfectly straight, was a plain white envelope. It wasn't sealed. My name wasn't on it. Did you read it? I asked. We have to treat it as evidence, Jensen said. But yes, I read it. You need to see it. I looked down at the paper. The handwriting was jagged, hurried. It looked like it was written with a thick marker. Tell your mother the truth always finds its way home. I read it twice. Tell your mother, this wasn't about me. This wasn't about my apartment. This was about Caroline. Do you know what this means? Jensen asked. I shook my head, but a small, dark feeling was growing in my stomach. A memory was trying to surface, but I pushed it down. I don't know, I lied. Jensen looked at me. He knew I was holding back, but he didn't push. Not yet. We're going to dust for prints, he said. We'll get a tech out here. The landlord needs to board up this door tonight. You can't stay here. I know, I said. My voice sounded hollow. I looked at the face-down photo of Eli. I reached out to turn it up to see his smiling face, but Jensen stopped me. Don't touch, he reminded me gently. I pulled my hand back. I felt tears pricking my eyes. This was my sanctuary. This was the one place I had built for myself and my son, away from the toxicity of the Hale house. And now, the toxicity had followed me here. The message was clear. There was no separation, there was no escape. Miss Hale, Jensen said, his voice softer. The witness mentioned one other thing. He said the guy who ran out. He looked familiar to the neighborhood. We're running prints now, but I have a hunch. Who? I asked. We think it might be Tyler Vance. I froze. Tyler, does the name mean anything to you? Yes, I said. He's my landlord's nephew. He does maintenance sometimes. He fixed my sink last month. Tyler was a quiet, hulking man. He always made me uncomfortable. He stared too long. He asked questions that were too personal. But he was just the handyman. Why would the handyman break down my door and leave a note for my mother? Why would Tyler do this? I asked. That, Jensen said, is the question of the night. I spent that night at a cheap hotel a few miles away. I couldn't go back to my parents' house, obviously, and I didn't want to burden my friends with the danger I felt surrounding me. I barely slept. I lay in the stiff hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Eli breathe beside me. Every time a car door slammed outside in the parking lot, I jumped. I kept seeing those photos face down. I kept seeing the jagged handwriting. Tell your mother the truth always finds its way home. The next morning, the sun came up, but the world didn't look any brighter. It looked gray and washed out. I got Eli dressed and dropped him off at preschool. I tried to act normal for him. Pancakes tonight, I promised him as I hugged him goodbye. With chocolate chips, he asked. Yes, a mountain of them. I watched him run into the classroom, innocent and safe. I had to keep him that way. As I walked back to my car, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but I knew who it was. This is Sienna, I answered. Miss Hale, it's Officer Jensen. I got into my car and locked the doors immediately. Did you find anything? We did, he said. Can you come down to the station? There are some things I need to show you. It's better if we do this in person. My stomach dropped. Is it bad? It's complicated, he said. I drove to the precinct in a daze. The station was busy, loud, and smelled like stale coffee. Officer Jensen met me at the front desk and led me to a small desk in the back. It was quieter there. He gestured for me to sit. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept either. We found Tyler Vance, Jensen said without preamble. Did you arrest him? I asked. We brought him in for questioning early this morning. We found his prints on your doorframe and on the table where the note was left. He didn't even try to hide them. Did he say why? I asked. Did he want money? Was he trying to hurt me? Jensen sighed. He opened a file folder on his desk and slid a piece of paper toward me. It was a printout of a bank transfer. Tyler isn't a mastermind, Jensen said. He's a guy who needs money. He cracked pretty fast. He told us he wasn't robbing you. He was hired to do a job. I looked at the paper. It was a digital receipt for a wire transfer of $2,000. The date was 3 days ago. He was paid to retrieve something from your apartment, Jensen said, and to leave that message to scare you. Paid by who? I asked, though deep down, a cold stone of dread was already forming in my gut. Jensen tapped the paper. Look at the sender. I looked. The account name was abbreviated, but the source was clear. C. Hale Personal. The world stopped. All the noise in the station, the phones, the typing, the voices, faded into a buzzing silence. My mother, I whispered. My mother paid the man who kicked in my door. It appears so, Jensen said. We verified the account. It's registered to Caroline Hale. I leaned back in the chair, feeling like I might throw up. My mother was controlling. She was manipulative. She was cruel. But hiring a criminal, paying a stranger to break into her daughter's home where her grandson slept. Why? I asked. My voice cracked. Why would she do that? Jensen leaned forward. Tyler said he was told to look for a box, a specific file box. He said Mrs. Hale told him you had stolen family documents, and she wanted them back. He didn't find them, which is why he tossed the place and left the note. A box. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. The memory I had been pushing down since last night came rushing up like air bubbles from deep water. Oh my God, I said. Miss Hale, I know what she wanted, I said. I looked at Jensen. I know what the truth is. Tell me, he said. I took a deep breath. 3 weeks ago, I was helping my dad organize his office. He's getting older and his memory isn't great. He asked me to sort through some old file cabinets in the attic. He wanted to throw out old tax returns. I paused, remembering the dust in the attic, the smell of old paper. I found a box tucked in the back under some old blankets. It wasn't labeled. I opened it, thinking it was just more junk, but it wasn't. I looked at Jensen, making sure he understood the gravity of this. It was deeds, I said. Property deeds, bank accounts, offshore setups, but the names on them weren't just my parents. I swallowed hard. Some of them were in my name. Sienna Hale, properties I've never seen, accounts I've never opened. Millions of dollars, officer, funneled through an identity that belongs to me. Jensen's eyes narrowed. Identity theft by your parents. I didn't want to believe it, I said. I took the box, I brought it to my apartment. I wanted to go through it to understand what I was seeing before I confronted them. I thought maybe it was a trust fund. Maybe it was for me, I laughed bitterly. But it wasn't for me. I'm broke, Officer Jensen. I struggle to pay rent. If I had millions, I wouldn't be living in that apartment. They were using me. They were using my clean credit and my name to hide their money. And when you took the box, they noticed, Jensen concluded. My mother noticed, I corrected. She must have gone to the attic. She realized the evidence was gone. She couldn't ask me for it because then she'd have to admit what she did, so she tried to steal it back. And when she couldn't steal it back, Jensen said, looking at the file, she tried to evict you. Change the locks, force you out so she could tear the place apart herself. It was a perfect storm of betrayal. The dinner, the lock changing, the break-in. It was all a desperate attempt by Caroline Hale to cover her tracks. She put my son in danger, I said. The sadness was gone now. It was replaced by a white-hot anger. It started in my chest and spread to my fingertips. Tyler Vance is a big guy. If I had been home, if Eli had been home, it could have gone very badly, Jensen agreed softly. He closed the folder. Miss Hale, this is serious. Breaking and entering is a felony. Conspiracy is a felony. And if what you say about the financial fraud is true, that's federal. We have Tyler for the break-in, but connecting it to your mother, we have the payment, but she could claim it was for something else. She could claim it was for legitimate work. She labeled it maintenance, I remembered. Exactly. A good lawyer could argue she hired him to fix a sink and he went rogue. Jensen looked me in the eye. To nail this, to really make her answer for it, we need that box. And we need a confession. I sat there for a moment. I thought about the box. It was currently sitting in the trunk of my car, hidden under a pile of reusable grocery bags and a spare tire. I had moved it there 2 days ago because I had a bad feeling. My intuition had saved the evidence. I have the box, I said. Jensen nodded. Good, don't give it to me yet. If you give it to me now, it enters the system. Your parents will know immediately. They'll lawyer up, destroy other evidence, maybe flee. So what do I do? You said you wanted the truth, Jensen said. You need to get her to admit it. We need to know that the payment to Tyler was specifically for the break-in. We need her to say it. I thought about my mother, her elegance, her coldness. She thought she was untouchable. She thought I was weak. She thought I was just the daughter who messed up, the one who needed to be managed. She didn't know who I was anymore. I pulled out my phone. I'm going to text her, I said. Jensen didn't stop me. He watched. I typed the message out. My fingers didn't shake this time. Dinner, my place. Tonight, no lies this time. I hit send. The reply came almost instantly. She must have been waiting by the phone, terrified that Tyler had been caught or that I had found out. Fine, she wrote, but be ready for what you'll hear. I looked at Jensen. She's coming. I can have a unit outside, he offered. No, I said. If she sees police, she won't talk. I need to do this alone. I need to look her in the eye. It's dangerous, Sienna. No, I said firmly. She's not going to hit me. She's too refined for that. She fights with words and money. I can handle her. I stood up. I felt different, taller. For 29 years, I had been the victim. I had been the disappointing daughter. I had been the doormat. But today, I wasn't the victim. I was the witness. And I was the prosecutor. I'm going to get the truth, I told Officer Jensen. And then I'm going to bring you that box. Be careful, he said. I walked out of the police station. The rain had stopped. The air was crisp. I got into my car and looked at the trunk release. My future was in there. My freedom was in there. I started the engine. I had a few hours to prepare. I needed to clean up the apartment. I needed to put the photos back up. I needed to set the stage. My mother liked a show. Fine. I would give her the performance of a lifetime. I drove back to my apartment with a strange kind of energy humming in my veins. It wasn't fear anymore. It was clarity. For the first time in my life, I wasn't wondering what I had done wrong. I knew exactly what had been done to me. When I got inside, the apartment still felt cold. The landlord had nailed a piece of plywood over the broken door frame. It looked ugly, a jagged scar on the front of my home. I walked into the living room and put my keys in the bowl. I looked at the photos. They were still face down. I took a deep breath and started flipping them over, one by one. I turned over the picture of Eli at the beach. I turned over the photo of me and my best friend, Olivia. I turned over the picture of me holding Eli when he was just a baby, tired but happy. "You don't get to hide us," I whispered to the empty room. "You don't get to erase me." I spent the next hour cleaning. I swept up the splinters of wood near the door. I wiped the dust off the table where Tyler had left his threatening note. I made the place look normal again. I wanted my mother to walk into a home, not a crime scene. I wanted her to see that she hadn't broken me. Then, I went to the kitchen and made coffee. I didn't cook dinner. This wasn't a social call. I sat at the small round table and took my phone out of my pocket. I opened the voice memo app. I tested it once. Testing, 1, 2. The little red waveform jumped. I set the phone on the table, screen down, near the sugar bowl. It was invisible if you weren't looking for it. At 7 p.m. exactly, a car pulled up outside. I looked through the blinds. It was my mother's silver Mercedes. It looked ridiculous parked next to the dented sedans and pickup trucks on my street. She sat in the car for a full minute before getting out. She was checking her makeup in the rearview mirror. Even now, appearance was her god. She walked up the path, stepping carefully over a puddle. She wore a beige trench coat and heels that clicked sharply on the pavement. She didn't knock. She tried the handle. It was locked. I had made sure of that. She knocked 3 sharp raps. I walked to the door and opened it. "Sienna," she said. She didn't say hello. She just breezed past me into the living room, bringing a cloud of expensive perfume with her. She looked around the room, her nose wrinkling slightly. "It smells like sawdust in here, and it's drafty." "Really, Sienna, I don't know how you raise a child in this environment." I closed the door and locked it. The click was loud. "Hello, Mother," I said. She turned to face me. She took off her gloves slowly, finger by finger. "Well, you summoned me, which frankly is incredibly rude after the way you stormed out of dinner last night. Your father was mortified." "Dad was mortified?" I asked. I walked over to the table and leaned against it near my phone. "Or you were mortified because you couldn't control the narrative?" Caroline laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Don't use those therapy words with me. Narrative. Control. You sound like a child." She sat down on one of the kitchen chairs, smoothing her coat beneath her. She looked at the empty table. "Are we not eating? You said dinner." "I lied," I said, her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me." "I lied to get you here," I said simply. "Just like you lied to get Tyler Vance here." The room went dead silent. My mother didn't flinch. She was a master at this. Her face remained perfectly smooth, like a mask of porcelain. She reached for the sugar bowl, then stopped. "I don't know who that is," she said. "Don't," I said. My voice was low, but it filled the room. "Don't do that, not tonight. I went to the police station this morning, Mom." She stiffened, just a little, a tiny tension in her shoulders. "I saw the bank records," I continued. "I saw the transfer, $2,000 from the C. Hale personal account to Tyler Vance, sent 3 days ago, labeled maintenance." I watched her face. I saw the moment she calculated her next move. She realized denial wouldn't work because the paper trail existed, so she switched tactics. She switched to justification. She sighed as if she were disappointed in me. "Sienna, you are making a mountain out of a molehill." "As usual." "A molehill?" I asked, my voice rising. "A man kicked in my door. He left a threatening note on this table. He terrified my neighbors if Eli had been here." "But Eli wasn't here," she cut in sharply. "I knew he wasn't here." "You were at dinner. I timed it perfectly." I felt the air leave my lungs. She admitted it, just like that. You timed it." I stared at her. "You hired a thug to break into my house, and you think it's okay because you checked your watch first." "He wasn't supposed to break the door," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "He was supposed to use a key. I thought you kept a spare under the mat like a normal person." He got aggressive. "That's hard to find good help these days." She spoke about a felony break-in like it was a botched catering order. "Why?" I asked. "Why did you do it?" She looked at me with cold, hard eyes. "Because you took something that doesn't belong to you." "The box," I said. "My files," she corrected. I went to the attic to find some old tax returns for the accountant. I saw the box was gone. "I knew you were the last one up there." She stood up and walked toward me. She was smaller than me, but she always made me feel small. Give it back, Sienna. It's complicated financial business. You wouldn't understand it. It's your father's business. I understand enough, I said. I didn't back down. I understand that my name is on those deeds. I understand that my social security number is on those bank accounts in the Cayman Islands. I understand that you and Dad have millions of dollars hidden away while I'm clipping coupons to buy Eli new shoes. My mother's face flushed pink. We are protecting that money for the family, for the future. Whose future? I snapped. Caleb's, yours, because it certainly isn't mine. You used me, Mom, you used my identity. We gave you life, she shouted. It was the first time she had raised her voice. We put a roof over your head for 18 years. We paid for your school until you got pregnant and threw it all away. You owe us. I don't owe you my name, I shouted back. That is fraud, Mom. That is a federal crime. She laughed again, but this time it was nervous. Oh, stop it. You aren't going to do anything. You're Sienna. You're soft. You'll give me the box. I'll have Tyler fix your little door, and we will pretend this never happened. She held out her hand. The box now. I looked at her hand. It was manicured, perfect, and demanding. I looked at her face. It was the face of a woman who had never been told no in her entire life. I reached into my pocket. But I didn't pull out keys to a box. I pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was the printout of the property deed for a commercial building in Seattle. A building technically owned by Sienna Hale, purchased 3 years ago for $4 million. I slammed it onto the table. I'm not soft anymore, I said. The sound of the paper hitting the table was like a gunshot. My mother looked down at the document. She recognized it immediately. Outside, the wind picked up. The rain started again, lashing against the window pane. It felt like the world was closing in on us. Caroline picked up the paper. Her hands were shaking. She read my name at the top. You went through it, she whispered. You actually went through it. Every page, I said. I know about the shell company in Nevada. I know about the apartment complex in Vancouver. I know that you've been funneling Dad's business profits into these assets for 5 years to avoid taxes. And I know you did it all under my name because you knew. You knew I wouldn't check. I felt tears stinging my eyes, but they were tears of anger. Why me, Mom? Why not Caleb? He's the golden boy. He's the business major. My mother looked up. Her expression was tragic. Because Caleb has a future, Sienna. The words hit me in the chest. What? I breathed. Caleb has a career, she said, as if she were explaining something to a toddler. He has a reputation to build. He's going to run the company one day. We couldn't put these liabilities on his record. If something went wrong, it would ruin him. She took a step closer to me. But you, Sienna, look at your life. You're a single mother working as a receptionist. You have no assets. You have no public standing. If the IRS audited you, it would be a mess, sure, but you have nothing to lose. Caleb has everything to lose. I stood there, frozen. I had always known I was the second favorite. I had always known they preferred him. But to hear it said out loud was a different kind of pain. It wasn't just favoritism. It was a calculation. They saw Caleb as a person with a future. They saw me as a disposal bin. I am a shield, I said, my voice trembling. I am just a shield for Caleb. You are family, she insisted. This is what family does. We protect the strong ones. We sacrifice for the greater good. I am the strong one, I screamed. The scream tore out of my throat before I could stop it. I am the one raising a child on my own. I am the one who pays my own bills. Caleb still brings his laundry to your house on Sundays. I am the strong one, and you tried to send me to prison to save him. My mother's face twisted. The mask was completely gone now. She looked ugly. She looked desperate. You ungrateful little brat, she hissed. We did this to build an empire. And yes, maybe you would have taken a fall if things went wrong, but we would have taken care of you. We would have hired the best lawyers. We would have paid your fines. I don't want your money, I yelled. I want my life. I want my own name. You will destroy your father, she said, her voice dropping to a lethal whisper. If you turn over those papers, Richard goes to jail. I go to jail. Caleb loses the company. The house is seized. Everything we built. Gone. She leaned over the table, her face inches from mine. Is that what you want, Sienna? Do you want to be the girl who destroyed her own family? Do you want Eli to grow up knowing his mother put his grandparents in a cage? The room spun. The guilt was a heavy blanket she was trying to throw over me. It was the same guilt she had used my whole life. Don't be difficult. Don't make a scene. Do it for the family. I looked at her. I really looked at her. I saw the fear in her eyes. She wasn't worried about me. She wasn't worried about Eli. She was terrified of losing her status. She was terrified of the country club finding out she was a fraud. I looked at the phone on the table. The little red light was still on. It was still recording. I thought about Eli. I thought about him sleeping in that hotel bed last night, scared because we couldn't go home. If I let this go, they would never stop. They would use me again. They would use Eli next. They would drain me until I was dry and then toss me aside. I'm not destroying this family, I said quietly. My mother smiled, thinking she had won. Good, I knew you were smart. Now give me the box. I'm not destroying it, I repeated. You already did. Her smile faltered. What? You destroyed it when you decided I was disposable, I said. You destroyed it when you sent a criminal to my house. You destroyed it every time you looked at me and saw an insurance policy instead of a daughter. I picked up the phone. I hit stop on the recording. What are you doing? She asked, eyeing the phone. I recorded everything, I said. I have your confession. You admitted to hiring Tyler. You admitted to the fraud. You admitted to framing me. My mother's face went white, truly white like paper. You wouldn't, she whispered. Sienna, please. I have the box, I said. It's not here, it's safe. And tomorrow morning I'm taking it to Officer Jensen, and I'm giving him this recording. Sienna, she grabbed my arm. Her grip was painful. Her nails dug into my skin. Think about what you're doing. You will be an orphan. No one will speak to you. Caleb will hate you. Everyone will hate you. I looked down at her hand on my arm. I grabbed her wrist and pulled it off. I was stronger than her. I had carried a child. I had carried the weight of their neglect for years. I was strong. Let them hate me, I said. At least they'll know who I am. I walked to the door and unlocked it. I threw it open. The rain was pouring down now, a sheet of water blurring the streetlights. Get out, I said. Sienna, get out, I roared. It was a sound I didn't know I could make. It came from the deepest part of my belly. My mother flinched as if I had hit her. She clutched her trench coat around her neck. She looked at me one last time, searching for the weak little girl she used to know. She didn't find her. She walked out into the rain. She didn't run. She walked stiffly, trying to maintain her dignity while the water soaked her expensive hair. She got into her Mercedes and slammed the door. I watched her drive away. I watched the taillights disappear around the corner. My legs gave out. I sank down onto the floor, right there in the entryway. I pulled my knees to my chest. I was shaking so hard my teeth chattered. It wasn't cold. It was the adrenaline leaving my body. I sat there for a long time, listening to the rain. I had done it. I had cut the cord. For 29 years, I had been tethered to them, desperate for a scrap of affection. I had just severed that tie with a machete. I was alone. But as I sat there, breathing in the smell of the rain and the coffee, I realized something. The air felt lighter. The house felt quiet but not empty. It felt mine. My phone buzzed in my hand. It was a text from Olivia. Thinking of you and Eli. Do you need me to come over? I looked at the message. I looked at the recording saved on my screen. I wasn't alone. I had Eli. I had Olivia. And for the first time I had myself. I stood up. My legs were steady again. I walked to the door and closed it, locking the deadbolt. I went to the kitchen and picked up the deed I had slammed on the table. I folded it neatly. Tomorrow would be hard. Tomorrow would be lawyers and police and headlines. Tomorrow my parents' world would burn down. But tonight, I was going to make pancakes. I was going to put extra chocolate chips in them, and I was going to sleep in my own bed, in my own home, with the locks that I controlled. I was finally free. The sun came up the next morning, bright and unforgiving. It didn't care that my life was about to explode. It didn't care that I was about to turn my parents into criminals. I woke up before the alarm. I lay in bed, staring at the dust motes dancing in the light. For a moment, I felt a heavy stone in my stomach, the old guilt. The voice of my mother whispering, "You are ruining the family." Then I looked at the baby monitor on my nightstand. I heard Eli shifting in his sleep. I remembered what she said. Caleb has a future. You are a shield. The guilt vanished. It was replaced by a cold, hard resolve. I got up. I dressed in my best clothes, a navy blazer and slacks. I wanted to look professional. I wasn't a scared daughter today. I was a witness. I dropped Eli off at school. I hugged him longer than usual. "Mom, you're squishing me," he giggled. "I love you, Eli," I said. "Everything is going to be okay." "I know," he said, running off to the playground. He didn't know, but I was going to make it true. I drove to the police station. The box of documents was heavy in my arms as I walked across the parking lot. It felt like I was carrying a bomb. In a way, I was. Officer Jensen was waiting for me. He saw the box and nodded. He didn't smile. He knew this wasn't a happy occasion. "You came," he said. "I told you I would," I replied. He led me to a different room this time. It was an interview room. There was a round table and a camera in the corner. Another man was there. He was older, balding, wearing a cheap suit. "This is Detective Miller," Jensen said. "Financial crimes. Miller shook my hand. His grip was dry and firm. Officer Jensen tells me you have quite a story, Miss Hale. I have more than a story, I said. I have proof. I put the box on the table. I took off the lid. For the next 3 hours, I explained everything. I walked them through the deeds. I showed them the dates. I showed them the signatures, my name, written in my mother's handwriting. This building, Miller said, holding up a deed for a warehouse in the industrial district. You've never been there. Never, I said. And this account in the Cayman Islands. It has a balance of $600,000. I drive a 10-year-old car, I said flatly. I have $200 in my checking account. Miller looked at me over his glasses. Your parents used your social security number to open these. That's identity theft. It's tax evasion. It's money laundering. I know, I said. If we pursue this, Miller said, your parents will go to prison for a long time. There is no plea deal for this amount of money. He was giving me an out. He was testing me. He wanted to see if I would get cold feet at the last second. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. There is one more thing, I said. I played the recording. The room was silent as my mother's voice filled the air. It sounded tinny and sharp coming from the small speaker. We did this to build an empire. You are a shield. Caleb has a future. I watched the detectives' faces. Jensen looked angry. He clenched his jaw when my mother admitted to hiring Tyler Vance. Miller just looked sad. He had probably seen families destroy each other 100 times before. When the recording ended, Miller let out a long breath. Well, he said. That seals it. That connects the break-in to the fraud. She admitted motive. He looked at Jensen. Get a warrant for the house and the business offices. We need to move fast before they destroy anything else. Am I done? I asked. My voice felt small. For today, yes, Miller said. Miss Hale, I'm going to advise you not to contact your parents. Don't answer their calls. If they show up at your house, call 911 immediately. They won't show up, I said. My mother cares too much about appearances to be seen screaming on a front lawn. I walked out of the station. It was noon. The world looked exactly the same as it had at 9 a.m., but everything had changed. The fuse was lit. I went to work. I sat at my desk and answered phones. I typed emails. It felt surreal to do mundane tasks while my parents' lives were being dismantled by the police. At 3 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a text from a friend who still followed my mother on social media. OMG Sienna, are you okay? There are police cars at your parents' house. I stared at the screen. It was happening. I opened a news app on my computer. It was already there, under breaking news. Raid AT Hale residence. Prominent businessman and wife taken into custody. There was a photo. It was grainy, taken from a distance. It showed my father, Richard, being led out in handcuffs. He looked old and confused. He was slumped over. Then my mother. She wasn't slumped. She was walking with her head high, but her face was a mask of fury. She was wearing the same trench coat she had worn to my apartment last night. A female officer was guiding her by the elbow. I looked at the photo of my mother in handcuffs. I expected to feel happy. I expected to feel triumphant. I didn't. I just felt tired. Deeply, deeply tired. It was a grief for the parents I never had. I wasn't mourning the people in the handcuffs. I was mourning the idea that they ever loved me. My phone started ringing. It was Caleb. I stared at the name on the screen. Caleb, he called again. And again. He was panic calling. He probably didn't know what was happening. Or maybe he did. Maybe the police were at his office too. I let it ring. I thought about answering. I thought about explaining myself. They used me, Caleb. They threw me under the bus to save you. But I knew what he would say. He would say I was selfish. He would say I should have taken the fall. He had been brainwashed by them his whole life, just like I was. But he was the beneficiary, so he would never understand the cost. I blocked his number. Then I blocked my aunt, my cousins, everyone who had sat at that birthday dinner and said nothing while my mother plotted against me. I put the phone down. The silence that followed was heavy, but it was peaceful. I left work early. I picked up Eli. We went to the grocery store. I bought ingredients for dinner. We bought ice cream. When we got home, the plywood was still on the door, but I didn't care. Inside, the apartment was warm. I turned on the TV, but I kept the volume low. The news was playing. Financial scandal rocks Portland. Millions in offshore accounts. Daughter identified as the victim of identity theft. I turned the TV off. I didn't need to watch it. I had lived it. I sat on the floor with Eli and we built a castle out of blocks. This is the king, Eli said, holding up a plastic figure. And this is the queen. And who is this? I asked, holding up a smaller figure. That's the knight, he said. He protects the castle, I smiled. Yes, he does. That night I slept for 10 hours. I didn't have a single dream. Weeks passed. The initial explosion of the scandal settled into a slow, steady burn. The headlines changed from shock arrest to investigation DEPNS. My parents were out on bail, but they were under house arrest. Their assets were frozen. The beautiful house on the hill was now a prison. The country club memberships were revoked. The friends they had spent a lifetime impressing had vanished. I didn't see them. I spoke only through the district attorney. Detective Miller told me that they tried to blame everything on a rogue accountant, but the recording I gave them made that impossible. My mother's voice, clear and arrogant, was the nail in the coffin. Caleb was not charged. It turned out he didn't know the specifics of the fraud. He was just the spoiled prince waiting for his inheritance. But now, there was no inheritance. The company was in receivership. The money was gone. I heard through Olivia that Caleb was working at a car dealership now. He was furious. He told everyone I was a traitor. Let him talk. I didn't care about his words anymore. One rainy Tuesday evening, I met Olivia for dinner. We went to a small Italian place downtown. It was noisy and smelled like garlic and bread. It was full of life. Olivia poured me a glass of wine. To you, she said. To us, I corrected. You were the only one who told me I wasn't crazy. You were never crazy, Olivia said. You were just gaslit for 20 years. She took a sip of wine. So, the lawyer called me today. He said your parents are looking at a plea deal. I nodded. 10 years, maybe 8 with good behavior. And the assets. Everything is being seized to pay back the taxes and fines, I said. The property's in my name, the government is taking them. But that's fine, I don't want them. They cleaned my credit report, that's all I wanted. I'm starting from zero, but it's my zero. It's not zero, Olivia said. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You have a job, you have Eli, you have your freedom, that's a lot. I smiled, she was right. I got a letter from my father, I said quietly. Olivia's eyes went wide. What? How? He sent it through his lawyer. It wasn't supposed to get to me, but it did. What did it say? I looked down at my plate. It was short. He said, we did it for the family. You will understand one day. Olivia scoffed. Unbelievable, even now, even facing prison, they still think they are the martyrs. I burned it, I said. Good. I didn't burn it because I was angry, I explained. I burned it because he's wrong. I will never understand. I will never understand sacrificing one child to save another. That isn't family, that's a cult. I took a deep breath. I'm done with the Hale definition of family. I'm making my own definition now. We finished our dinner. We laughed about things that didn't matter, work, bad dates, movies. It felt good to be normal. When I got home, the babysitter was asleep on the couch. I paid her and sent her home. I went into Eli's room. He was sprawled out on his bed, one leg hanging off the side. He looked so peaceful. I sat on the edge of the bed and smoothed his hair. My mother had told me that I would regret this. She said I would be lonely. She said I would have no one. But looking at my son, I knew she was wrong. Peace isn't about having a big table full of people who secretly hate you. Peace is about safety. It's about knowing that the people in your home actually love you. I walked to the kitchen. The table was empty. No threatening notes. No hidden recorders, just a fruit bowl and a stack of Eli's drawings. I opened my laptop. I had one last email to write. It was to the district attorney. He had asked for a victim impact statement, something to read at the sentencing hearing next month. I had been agonizing over what to write. How do you summarize a lifetime of neglect in a few paragraphs? I started typing. To the court, my name is Sienna Hale. For a long time, that name felt like a burden. It was a name used to hide secrets. It was a name used as a tool. My parents believed that love is control. They believed that family is a business arrangement. When I stood up to them, they told me I was destroying the family. But you cannot destroy something that was already broken. I am not asking for revenge. I am asking for the truth. I want my name back. I want my life back. I forgive them, not because they deserve it, but because I deserve to let go of the anger. I don't want to carry their luggage anymore. Please ensure that they can never hurt anyone financially again. As for the emotional hurt, that is my job to heal. Sincerely, Sienna. I hit send. It was done. I closed the laptop. I walked to the window and looked out at the street. The rain had stopped. The clouds were breaking apart, revealing a few stars. The police tape was gone from my door. The wood was fixed. I had painted it a bright, cheerful blue. I wasn't the victim anymore. I wasn't the daughter of the disgraced Richard and Caroline Hale. I was just Sienna. I went to the fridge and pulled out the pancake mix for tomorrow morning. I set out the chocolate chips. Always, I whispered to the quiet room. I turned off the lights. This ends here, and it does. The silence after my mother left was louder than the storm outside. I stayed on the floor of my entryway for a long time. The hardwood was cold against my legs, but I didn't move. I stared at the door where she had just stood, the spot where the woman who gave birth to me had tried to bully me into submission one last time. She had said, "You'll regret this." The words hung in the air like a bad smell. I closed my eyes and tested them. Did I regret it? I felt my heart racing, thumping against my ribs like a trapped bird. But it wasn't regret. It was fear. Not fear of her, but fear of the unknown. For 29 years, my life had been scripted. Do well in school, be the polite daughter, hide your mistakes. Support Caleb. Now the script was shredded, I was off book, and that was terrifying. I finally stood up when I heard a noise from the bedroom. Eli. I walked down the hallway, my legs feeling heavy. I pushed his door open gently. He was fast asleep, his arm thrown over his stuffed bear, his breath coming in soft, rhythmic puffs. I leaned against the doorframe and watched him. He looked so peaceful. He didn't know that his grandmother had just threatened to destroy our lives. He didn't know that his mother was about to burn down the family empire. "I'm doing this for you," I whispered into the dark. It was true. If I didn't stop them now, they would come for him eventually. They would try to mold him. They would try to use him. I couldn't let Eli become another Caleb, hollowed out and filled with their greed. I went back to the kitchen. The documents were still there. The phone with the recording was there. I needed to secure them. My mother was desperate. Desperate people do dangerous things. She might send Tyler back. She might send someone worse. I grabbed the box of deeds. I grabbed my laptop. I put the phone in my pocket. I checked the locks on the windows. I checked the deadbolt on the front door 3 times. I wedged a heavy dining chair under the doorknob, just like they do in the movies. It felt silly, but it made me feel better. I didn't sleep in my bed that night. I slept on the floor of Eli's room, curled up on a rug with a blanket. I wanted to be between him and the door. The next morning, the rain had stopped. The sky was a bruised purple, slowly turning gray. I woke up with a headache, the kind that sits behind your eyes and pulses, but my mind was clear. I got Eli up and dressed. He was grumpy, rubbing his eyes. "Why are we up so early?" he whined. "We have a big day," I said. "I have to go see Officer Jensen again." "The policeman?" Eli's eyes widened. "Is he going to catch the bad guys?" I froze. I was buttoning his shirt. "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "Yes, baby, he is." I dropped him off at school. I watched him walk through the gate, his little backpack bouncing. I waited until he was inside the building before I drove away. I didn't want to leave. I felt like as long as I was with him, nothing could touch us. But I had a job to do. I drove to the precinct. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. I kept checking my rearview mirror. I half expected to see my father's black SUV following me. I expected to see my mother standing on a street corner, watching, but there was only traffic. Normal people going to normal jobs. When I parked at the station, I sat in the car for 5 minutes. I looked at the box in the passenger seat. This was it. Once I walked through those glass doors, there was no going back. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Caleb. "Mom says you're acting crazy. She says you have some papers. Just give them back, Sienna. Don't be a drama queen." I read the message. Drama queen. That was his favorite insult for me. Whenever I had a feeling, whenever I had a need, I was being dramatic. I didn't reply. I deleted the thread. I picked up the box. It was heavy, filled with the weight of their lies. I walked into the station. Officer Jensen was at the front desk, talking to a sergeant. He looked up and saw me. He saw the box. He didn't smile. He just nodded, a sharp, serious movement. He opened the gate and waved me through. "You brought it," he said. "I brought everything," I answered. We went to an interview room. It was small, smelling of stale coffee and floor wax. I put the box on the metal table. "This is the offshore account info," I said, pulling out a folder. "This is the deed to the warehouse. This is the shell company in Nevada." I laid them out like tarot cards. Jensen looked through them. His eyebrows went up. "Sienna," he said quietly, This is a lot. This is millions." "I know," I said. "And you're sure you want to do this? Once we start this investigation, the IRS gets involved. The FBI gets involved. Your parents' assets will be frozen. It's going to get very public very fast." I reached into my pocket and took out my phone. "I have one more thing," I said. I played the recording from last night. My mother's voice filled the small room. "We did it for the family. Caleb has a future. You are a shield." Jensen listened. His jaw tightened. When the recording got to the part where she admitted hiring Tyler Vance, I timed it perfectly. Jensen looked at me. There was anger in his eyes, but it wasn't directed at me. "That's conspiracy," he muttered, "and admission of a felony." When the recording ended, silence filled the room. "Is it enough?" I asked. Jensen looked at the pile of papers. He looked at my phone. "It's more than enough," he said. "It's a confession and the smoking gun all in one." He stood up. "I need to get the captain, and we need to call the district attorney." "You're going to be here for a while, Sienna." "I have nowhere else to be," I said. I sat back in the hard plastic chair. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It was the feeling of a heavy weight, one I had carried since I was a child, finally sliding off my shoulders. The collapse had begun, but for the first time, I wasn't the one being crushed. The next 48 hours were a blur of questions, statements, and coffee. I told them everything. I told them about the years of being dismissed. I told them about how my parents used my social security number because they knew I wouldn't check my credit score. I told them about the family meetings where I wasn't allowed to speak. The detectives listened. They didn't judge. They took notes. Then the raid happened. I wasn't there, thank God, but I heard about it. It was all over the news. Local tycoon's home raided by FBI. I watched the footage on the TV in the break room at work. The helicopter shot showed my parents' sprawling estate on the hill, the house they were so proud of, the house that was supposed to prove they were better than everyone else. Police cars blocked the long driveway. Agents in windbreakers with FBI on the back were carrying boxes out the front door. Then, the camera zoomed in. My father, Richard, was led out first. He wasn't wearing his usual tailored suit. He was wearing a tracksuit I had never seen before. He looked small. He looked confused. He was looking around for someone to fix it, but there was no one. Then, my mother, Caroline Hale, the queen of the social scene. She walked out with her head high, but her face was pale as death. Her hands were cuffed behind her back. She wasn't looking at the cameras. She was looking at the ground. For a second, I felt a pang of pity, just a flicker. It was the instinct of a daughter who had spent her life trying to please this woman. Then I remembered the text to Tyler Vance. "Go change the locks." I remembered her voice saying, "You are a shield." The pity vanished. "Miss Hale," I turned around. My boss, Mr. Henderson, was standing in the doorway of the break room. He looked worried. "Are you okay?" he asked. "The reporters, they're calling the main line." "I'm sorry," I said. "I can go home." "No," he said firmly. "You stay." I told them you're unavailable. "You're the victim here, Sienna. Everyone knows that." I blinked. Everyone knows that. For years, my family had painted me as the screw-up, the black sheep, the one who couldn't get her life together. But now, the truth was out. The headlines didn't say daughter betrays parents. They said parents defraud daughter. The narrative had flipped. That evening, I got a call from Officer Jensen. "They've been arraigned," he said. "Bail is set at $2 million each. They posted it, but they're under house arrest. Their passports are confiscated." "And Caleb?" I asked. "We interviewed him," Jensen said. "He claims he knew nothing. He's playing the idiot card. And honestly, the evidence backs him up. Your mother kept him clean. His name isn't on any of the fraudulent accounts." "Just yours?" I laughed bitterly. "Of course, he's the golden child. Even in crime, he gets protected." "He's not protected from the fallout," Jensen said. "The company accounts are frozen. The business is effectively shut down. Your brother is out of a job, Sienna. And with your parents' assets seized, the inheritance is gone." I sat on my couch, digesting this. Caleb had always looked down on me because I was poor. He drove a Porsche, I drove a Honda. He ate at steakhouses, I ate tuna sandwiches. Now we were both at zero. The only difference was I knew how to survive at zero, he didn't. "What happens next?" I asked. "Now we build the case for trial," Jensen said. "Or more likely, they'll plea. With the recording you gave us, their lawyer knows they can't win. They'll try to cut a deal to stay out of federal prison." "I don't care if they go to prison," I said. "I just want my name back." "You'll get it," Jensen promised. "We're already working with the credit bureaus to clear your history. It's going to take time, but we'll wipe the slate clean." I hung up. I looked around my small apartment. The rent was due next week. I had to buy groceries. Nothing had changed financially for me yet. I wasn't suddenly rich. But the air felt different. It felt clean. I wasn't a cover story anymore. I wasn't a shield, I was just Sienna. My phone buzzed again. It was my mother. I stared at the screen. She shouldn't be calling me. Her lawyer would have told her not to, but Caroline Hale never followed rules she didn't like. I watched the phone ring. "Answer it," a voice inside me said. "Hear her beg." No, another voice said, "That's what she wants. Engagement." I pressed the button on the side of the phone. I silenced the call. Then I blocked the number. It was a small movement, just a tap of a finger, but it felt like slamming a heavy iron door. I was done being their audience. 6 months later, the seasons had changed. The Portland rain had turned into a gentle, warm spring. The cherry blossoms were blooming along the waterfront, pink and white confetti on the sidewalks. I sat at a table outside a bistro with Olivia. We had a bottle of white wine between us. So, Olivia said, leaning forward. The sentencing is tomorrow, I nodded. 10 a.m. Are you going? No, I said. Olivia looked surprised. Really? After everything, don't you want to see them? I don't know, face consequences. I took a sip of wine. It was crisp and cold. I've already seen them face consequences, I said. I saw it when they lost the house. I saw it when the country club revoked their membership. I saw it when Caleb stopped talking to them because the money dried up. It was true. The great Hale family had dissolved. Caleb had moved to Seattle, trying to distance himself from the scandal. He worked at a car dealership now. He hadn't called me once. My parents were living in a small rented condo on the edge of town. They had pleaded guilty to tax evasion and identity theft. The plea deal was 5 years in minimum security, followed by probation. They were old. 5 years was a long time. I wrote a statement, I said. The district attorney is going to read it. That's enough for me. What did you say? Olivia asked. I thought about the letter. I had spent weeks writing it. I am not asking for vengeance, I had written. I am asking for peace. My parents stole my identity, but they failed to steal my spirit. I am asking the court to ensure they can never hurt anyone else again. As for me, I am moving forward. I said I was done, I told Olivia. She smiled and clinked her glass against mine. To being done. To being done, I repeated. We ordered food. We laughed. We didn't talk about the Hales anymore. We talked about Eli's soccer team. We talked about Olivia's new job. We talked about a hiking trip we wanted to take in the summer. My life was small. I still worked as a receptionist. I still lived in the same apartment. But it was my life. Every dollar I earned was mine. Every decision I made was mine. When I got home that night, the babysitter was watching TV. I paid her and let her out. I went into the kitchen. On the counter, there was a large envelope. It was from the Department of Justice. I opened it. Inside was a letter confirming that the fraudulent accounts had been closed. My credit report had been corrected. The liens on the properties, the ones I never bought, were removed from my name. Subject, Sienna Hale. Status, cleared. I ran my finger over the word cleared. I felt a lump in my throat. I hadn't realized how heavy the invisible chains were until they were gone. I heard little footsteps. Mom, I turned around. Eli was standing in the hallway, rubbing his eyes. He was wearing his dinosaur pajamas. Hey, buddy, I said. Did I wake you? I had a bad dream, he said. I went over and picked him up. He was getting big, heavy, but he still fit in my arms. What was it about? I asked. I lost my kite, he mumbled into my shoulder. It flew away. Well, I said, walking him back to his room, that's just a dream. We can get a new kite, a better one, a red one. With a tail, with a giant tail. I tucked him back into bed. I pulled the covers up to his chin. Mom, he asked sleepily. Is tomorrow pancake day? I smiled. It was Saturday tomorrow, our tradition. Yes, I said, pancakes with chocolate chips. And whipped cream, he negotiated. And whipped cream, he smiled, closing his eyes. Okay, good night. Good night, Eli. I walked back to the living room. I turned off the main light, leaving just the soft glow of the street lamp coming through the window. I looked at the envelope on the counter one last time. I thought about my mother, sitting in that rented condo, waiting to go to prison. I wondered if she thought about me. I wondered if she finally realized that the daughter she underestimated was the only one who had the strength to tell the truth. It didn't matter. I picked up the envelope and put it in a drawer. I closed the drawer. I walked to the window and looked out. The stars were visible tonight, sharp and bright above the city. I took a deep breath. The air in my lungs felt like my own. This ends here, I whispered. And it did.